We're here at the corner of Boylston and Arlington, just about 4 blocks from where those explosions happened yesterday afternoon. This is the perimeter of a 15-block area that police and federal authorities are treating like a crime scene. Now, I want to show you the parking lot right now as you see that wind whip across the camera. It is desolate, except for just this plow we see over here. I'm told by one of the people I interviewed that Monsignor Weiss said that we are now joined by 20 new angels looking over Newtown. Damage like this enormous tree here on this doctor's office lawn, as well as where you can see it hit up there on that roof. We're going back to this brick building. You may see far back there, there is some dim light behind some shades pulled down, and that is where we believe a man has barricaded himself. It's actually a pretty brilliant day to be standing out here waiting for the President of the United States. He's supposed to be here within a half an hour. We'll see Air Force One coming in over Bradley International. As a general courtesy, they get to spend 90 days at home and relax with their family. Bruno Mars, Red Hot Chili Peppers. You got, apparently the Seahawks will be there. It truly is a stunning day out here. Started a little cool this morning, warmed up perfectly, and take a look at this crowd. Victims of violence far too often end up here. Some of them even losing their lives on operating tables like this one. We're talking 60,000 skaters, 100,000 visitors. In fact, the rink's organizer told me this is one of the busiest rinks in America. Not to worry, these little guys won't be around for too long. Adults only survive for about 2 to 3 weeks. The chief told us that beyond breaking state laws, WeMet also broke several town regulations. One of them being, he didn't let the dogs out. There's so many elements, societal issues, economics, prosecution, but that doesn't mean this story is over yet. That means we're going to keep digging, and we're going to get back to you with the latest. This is where some of the runners were ushered after they were told about a mile before the finish that they could not finish the race because of the explosions. They said from there it broke into absolute mayhem. At this hour, though, what we're looking at is a staging area for national security, the National Guard, and the Boston Police. And it was a much wilder scene a little bit earlier today. I want to show you some of that. Take a look. Mayhem in the heart of Boston. What did they say that they saw?
2 bombs go off, and then people screaming, and people just started running back.
Runners were forced to stop about a mile from the finish line and fend for themselves.
There was a guy on the BAA who had a microphone and just telling everybody that there was an explosion, there things happened, and there was people seeking medical attention, and that was about it.
In Boston Common, SWAT teams and military members converged on the park while runners desperately tried to find their loved ones.
My phone's just been beeping because we have a person in Toronto, and there's about 4 people we haven't accounted for yet, but we're sure they're okay, but we're still, it's obviously we're worried.
Many milled through the police presence.
Everything, my Charlie pass, my hotel pass, my phone, my credit card, my money, everything is checked in.
Some emotionally reunited hours after the explosions.
And there was no contact. I think you left your cell phone at that time, so there was no way of getting a hold of her. So it was a little a pull on the strings, that's for sure.
While others counted themselves extremely lucky.
I have 15-year-olds, yeah, so we were, like she said, we were supposed to be on those bleachers.
If you want to see the incredible outpouring of compassion for these victims in this tragedy, look at this crowd. I would venture to say a couple of thousand, if not more, people at this location. And the things they've been saying, it's absolutely unbelievable. Some of these people don't even know people affected by the tragedy, and it is cutting them to their very cores. Take a listen to some of the people we had to talk to today.
We have a large family as it is, and I have one that's very close in age to all these children. I don't know who they are yet, and it's pretty upsetting to know that a whole classroom is gone.
These feelings echoed by the thousands of people who streamed into St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church Friday night. Just hours after a tragedy that took the lives of 28 people, the church came together.
It could happen to anyone at any time, and if I had lost somebody, it's just everyone should really come together right now.
Holding a special mass for people in Newtown to grieve and pray.
This is our faith, so we need to be here. We need to pray for these people.
The church will be open for the next 24 hours for those closest to this tragedy or anyone who feels affected.
Everyone in the town is really devastated by this thing, and it's such a small town, and I feel like this is going to bring everyone together, even though that is such a tragedy. But I mean, it's going to bring us together. That's the most important thing.
Now, obviously, everybody coming together seems to be the most important part. I spoke to several people who said they weren't even from Newtown. They just wanted to come here because they are parents, they are sisters, they are brothers, and they understand the tragedy of all of this. Now, the Monsignor here is Monsignor Robert Weiss. He is the one who addressed this crowd here this evening, and he will be coming to talk to the media in a couple of minutes to address what he has gone through today. We're told he went down to the school earlier today, and he's spoken with some of the families of those victims who were killed in this terrible tragedy. But thankfully, hopefully, the healing will start with this tonight and in vigils that are happening all over the state. Well, Brent Allison, 15-year-old Julian Goodman and his mother filed a complaint with Waterbury police because they allege one officer did some of those things you just mentioned, tasing Julian multiple times, hitting him in the face, causing him to go to the hospital and get stitches. And I spoke with their attorney, who said he personally spoke with the chief of police this morning. An internal investigation into the matter has been launched.
It hurted, but like at the same time, like my adrenaline, when I saw it, I got scared. But after, I don't know how to explain it.
15-year-old Julian Goodman has trouble putting into words what he describes as an assault at the hands of a Waterbury police officer.
His taser, when he was tasing me up close, I tried to move, and then he started hitting me again.
Goodman says he was tased 5 or 6 times by the officer and beaten in the head with the butt of the taser during an arrest back in May. Goodman's mother, Louisa Vasquez, says by the time she learned of the incident, Goodman was already in the hospital.
They let me see my son for 2 minutes. I went in the room, I put the camera on my phone. When I put the camera on my phone, I was told by the police officer I had to leave.
Vasquez snapped these pictures and sent them to us. And since then, mother and son have filed a complaint with Waterbury PD.
We will conduct a thorough investigation, as we do every time we get a complaint in every case.
Waterbury Deputy Chief Christopher Corbett told us the police are looking into the incident, but he also paints a very different picture. He says Goodman and 2 others were spotted in a stolen vehicle that failed to stop when pursued by police. And when it finally did, he says all 3 people in the car fled on foot.
In the case of this particular young man, he struggled with the officer, actively resisted arrest. They were fighting on a hilly, rocky embankment. Officer tasered him twice with no effect. Struggle continued. He was eventually able to take him into custody.
But Goodman's attorney says this case lends itself to a lawsuit.
I think there's definitely going to be a lawsuit. The issue that's right now is whether this policeman is going to be terminated, if he's going to have some kind of an issue with his own police department.
Now, as a result of that arrest in May, Goodman's being charged with larceny and interfering with an officer. It remains to be seen what will happen with the officer involved in this case, but we will certainly continue to follow it. Well, Allison, now the Malloy administration has just confirmed to me that some assault weapons can still be purchased, sold, or transferred in Connecticut. Now, this is either a loophole or a large exemption outlined by this letter from Connecticut's Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. With the stroke of a pen, dozens of semi-automatic rifles became illegal to sell or purchase in Connecticut last April.
That's a medium.
Preventing gun store owners like Fran Claus from selling them off their shelves.
You couldn't sell any centerfire semi-automatic firearms that the state believed in their law was considered an assault firearm.
But Fox Connecticut has discovered a surprising exception. A letter from the Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection telling an attorney that some assault weapons are legal. Quote, it is the intent of the legislature to exclude assault weapons manufactured before September 13th, 1994. And it's an opinion that's supported by attorneys for Connecticut Citizens Defense League.
It's my understanding that there's a possibility that the Connecticut state legislature may have overlooked pre-existing pre-ban types of rifles that were grandfathered in prior to the 1994 assault weapon ban.
In 1994, President Bill Clinton implemented a ban on assault weapons. The ban expired in 2004, but guns built before the ban once again became legal to sell. And some gun organizations believe Connecticut failed to address those types of guns in their new legislation.
There's a possibility that it is possible to obtain one legally in the state of Connecticut.
Now, this rifle has 4 cosmetic features. You may recall, Connecticut's new gun law says rifles like this one can only have 1. But gun enthusiasts say since this was built prior to 1994, it's perfectly legal. To be clear, that is if it only has a 10-round magazine. And get this, even analysis by the Connecticut Office of Legislative Research supports the supposed loophole. Quote, certain assault weapons defined by criteria rather than specific name are exempt from the state transfer restrictions and registration requirements if they were legally manufactured before September 13, 1994. So what does this mean for Connecticut's gun dealers? Claus says some gun stores may already be buying these firearms. One store, Tactical Arms in Torrington, just purchased 37 of them.
There could be hundreds of thousands of firearms available to the general public if this law is actually legal in the state of Connecticut.
Now, obviously, we wanted official word from the Malloy administration on this. Listen to what Undersecretary Mike Lawler told me.
If you can prove that they're if they were manufactured before 1994, they're not affected by this law, yes. And that's been the law since 2001 in Connecticut.
Do you think the legislature was aware of this? Because I know from just talking to other leaders in government, they didn't seem to be aware of this.
Well, this, as I said, this has been the law since 2001. It was carried over in the current bill, and